She had 30 days before eviction. He had $30 million in the bank. When he screamed at her in front of everyone, she could have backed down, apologized, kept her job. Instead, she looked at this man who destroyed careers for fun and spoke a truth so powerful it shattered him. What she said took 10 seconds. What happened next took 6 months. And what you're about to witness will make you believe in second chances again. Stay till the end. I promise you'll never forget this. But before I tell you what she said, you need to understand who these two people were. Because what happened that night, it wasn't just about a rude customer and a brave waitress. It was about two broken hearts, one unexpected moment, and a lesson that will stay with you forever. So settle in, grab some tissues, and let me take you back to that Friday evening at the Riverside Cafe. Welcome to Voice of Granny. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Sometimes life teaches us the most important lessons when we least expect them. And sometimes those lessons come from the people we'd never imagine. Let me tell you a story that changed two lives forever. Picture a beautiful Friday evening at the Riverside Cafe, right in the heart of downtown. The lights are soft and golden, casting warm shadows across the polished wooden tables. Outside, the city buzzes with life, but inside, everything feels calm and elegant. This is where the wealthy come to dine, where business deals happen over expensive wine, where everyone knows everyone's name. At table number 5 sits a man named Marcus Wellington. He's 45 years old, and if you looked at him, you'd think he had everything. His watch costs more than a small car. His suit is perfectly tailored, probably more expensive than what most people earn in half a year. Marcus owns a chain of luxury hotels across the country, and his name opens doors that stay closed for everyone else. But here's what you need to understand about Marcus. He's not just wealthy. He's feared. Every waiter in this restaurant has heard the stories. How he once got a chef fired with just one phone call. How he wrote a review that nearly destroyed a competing restaurant. How he expects the world to stop spinning when he walks into a room. Tonight, Marcus is alone at his table, tapping his expensive watch against the wood, waiting. And he doesn't like to wait. Not for anyone. Not for anything. Now, let me tell you about someone else. Her name is Sarah Chin. She's 38 years old, and 3 weeks ago, she started working as a waitress at the Riverside Cafe. This isn't what Sarah dreamed of doing with her life. Not by a long shot. You see, Sarah used to have a different life. She was married to a wonderful man named Tom. They had dreams together, plans for the future, a beautiful daughter named Emma who's 9 years old. But then Tom got sick. Cancer. The kind that comes fast and takes everything with it. Sarah spent 2 years watching the love of her life fade away. She held his hand through chemotherapy. She stayed awake on the nights when the pain was too much. She kept smiling for Emma even when her own heart was breaking into a million pieces. And when Tom finally passed away 10 months ago, Sarah was left with something she never expected. Mountains of medical bills. Debts that seemed impossible to climb. And a daughter who needed her to be strong. So here she is, working her second job, trying to keep their small apartment, trying to give Emma the life Tom would have wanted for her. Sarah's tired. You can see it in her eyes. But she keeps moving, keeps working, keeps pushing forward. Because that's what mothers do. As Sarah comes out of the kitchen carrying plates for another table, she doesn't know that her life is about to change. She doesn't know that the man sitting at table 5, the man who's getting angrier with every passing second, is about to teach her something. Or maybe, just maybe, she's about to teach him. Marcus's voice cuts through the gentle sounds of the restaurant like a knife through butter. "Excuse me," he calls out, loud enough that people at nearby tables turn to look. "I've been sitting here forever. Is anyone actually working in this place?" Sarah carefully sets down the plates she's carrying, takes a breath, and turns toward him. She's dealt with difficult people before. Life has taught her patience. She walks over to his table with a calm smile. "I'm sorry for the wait, sir," she says gently. "I'll be with you in just a moment." "In just a moment?" Marcus leans back in his chair, his voice rising. "Do you have any idea who I am? I could buy this entire cafe with the money in my wallet. I don't wait for anyone, especially not a waitress who clearly doesn't know what she's doing." The restaurant starts to go quiet. Other diners are watching now, some with curiosity, others with disapproval. Sarah feels her heart beating faster. She thinks about Emma at home, probably doing her homework, waiting for Mom to come back. She thinks about the rent that's due next week, the final notice sitting in her purse. But something inside Sarah refuses to bend. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's grief. Or maybe it's the memory of Tom, who taught her that every person deserves respect, no matter who they are. Sir, Sarah says quietly, her voice steady, I was helping other customers who came in before you. I believe everyone should be treated fairly. The words hang in the air like smoke. Marcus stares at her as if she just spoke a foreign language. Treated fairly? Him. Wait his turn like everyone else? In his world, money means power. Money means first in line. Money means the rules don't apply to you. And this waitress, this nobody, is telling him to wait? Let me explain something to you, Marcus says, his voice dripping with contempt. I employ thousands of people. I've given millions to charity. My taxes probably pay for half the services in this city. That's what fairness looks like in the real world, sweetheart. Sarah nods slowly, taking in his words. And then she does something that surprises everyone in the restaurant, including herself. She smiles. Not a fake customer service smile, but something real. Something almost sad. That's wonderful that you've been so successful, sir, she says softly. But right now, you're just another customer who wants to order dinner. So what would you like to eat? The silence that follows is complete. You could hear a pin drop. Marcus's face turns red, then redder. The manager, a nervous man named Robert, appears out of nowhere, looking like he might have a heart attack. Mr. Wellington, Robert stammers. Please, I'm sure we can. The problem, Marcus interrupts, not taking his eyes off Sarah, is that your waitress doesn't understand respect. And that's when everything changes. Sarah stands there, looking at this powerful man who's used to getting everything he wants. And suddenly, she doesn't see a billionaire anymore. She sees something else. Something familiar. You want to know what I see when I look at you? Sarah asks, her voice gentle but firm. The question surprises Marcus. People don't usually talk to him like this. They don't ask questions. They just obey. What? He says, his anger wavering slightly. I see someone who's scared, Sarah continues. Someone who's so afraid of being treated like everyone else that he has to keep reminding people how important he is. Marcus opens his mouth to argue, but Sarah keeps talking, and there's something in her voice that makes him listen. I've met people like you before, she says. Not rich people necessarily, but people who've forgotten that we're all just human. I met them in the hospital where my husband died. The word died seems to echo through the restaurant. Marcus feels something shift inside him, but he's not sure what. There were wealthy patients there, Sarah continues, her eyes distant as she remembers. Patients who demanded private rooms, who acted like their money made their pain more important than everyone else's. They'd snap at nurses, complain about waiting, treat the staff like servants. She pauses, and when she speaks again, her voice is softer. But you know what? When those patients were really scared, when they thought nobody was watching, they were just like everyone else. They held their wives' hands. They cried. They said please and thank you to the nurses who stayed late. Because pain doesn't care about your bank account. Fear doesn't know how much money you have. Marcus feels like the floor is tilting beneath him. Suddenly, he's not in the Riverside Cafe anymore. He's in a memory he's tried to bury for years. He's 14 years old, standing in a hospital hallway, watching his mother through a window. She's lying in a bed in the charity ward because they can't afford a private room. She's dying, and young Marcus feels more helpless than he's ever felt in his life. That feeling, that terrible helplessness, has shaped everything he's become. Every dollar earned, every business conquered, every person intimidated, it's all been running from that moment. Running from being powerless. Running from being the poor kid whose mother died in a charity ward. My husband's name was Tom, Sarah says, pulling Marcus back to the present. He was a carpenter. Never made a lot of money, but he was the richest man I knew in the ways that mattered. She sits down in the chair across from Marcus, uninvited, and Robert the manager looks like he might faint. But Marcus doesn't object. He just listens. When Tom got sick, Sarah continues, we lost everything. Our savings disappeared into medical bills. We had to sell our car. We moved to a smaller apartment. But Tom never stopped being kind. Even when the cancer made him angry and scared, even when the pain was unbearable, he still said please and thank you to every nurse, every doctor, every person who helped him. Tears shine in Sarah's eyes, but she doesn't look away from Marcus. The night before he died, Tom held my hand and said, Sarah, promise me something. Promise me you'll remember that we're all just people trying to get through each day. Rich or poor, powerful or weak, we're all the same when it really matters. Marcus feels his throat tighten. He tries to maintain his composure, but something is breaking inside him. A wall he's built so carefully over 30 years is starting to crumble. What was your mother's name? Sarah asks gently, and Marcus realizes with shock that somehow she knows. She sees right through him. Elizabeth, Marcus whispers, the name feeling foreign on his tongue. He hasn't said it out loud in years. Elizabeth Wellington. She was a teacher before she got sick. Tell me about her, Sarah says, and it's not a command. It's an invitation. Marcus looks around the restaurant. Everyone is watching, but for once he doesn't care. For once, he's too tired to pretend to be invincible. She used to tell me, Marcus begins, his voice shaking slightly, that the measure of a person wasn't what they had, but what they gave. She said that kindness was the only thing that really mattered in the end. He laughs bitterly. She died believing that. Died poor and kind. In a hospital bed she had to share with another patient, because we couldn't afford better. I was there, holding her hand, promising myself I'd never be powerless again. Never be poor again. Never be at anyone's mercy. Sarah reaches across the table and takes his hand, just as she used to take Tom's hand during those long, dark nights. And did it work? She asks softly. Do you feel powerful now? Marcus looks at their joined hands, this waitress with medical debt and a second job, offering comfort to a billionaire. And he realizes the truth he's been running from for decades. No, he admits, and the word feels like a confession. I feel empty. I feel alone. I feel like I betrayed everything my mother believed in. Around them, the restaurant has gone completely silent. People aren't eating, aren't talking, aren't even pretending not to listen. They're witnessing something rare and precious. They're watching a human heart remember how to feel. I have everything, Marcus continues, and now tears are sliding down his face, and he doesn't care who sees them. I have houses I never visit, cars I never drive, money I could never spend. But I can't remember the last time someone looked at me and saw Marcus instead of Mr. Wellington. I can't remember the last time I had a real conversation that wasn't about business. I can't remember the last time I felt human. Sarah squeezes his hand. Then maybe, she says gently, it's time to remember. Marcus sits there, tears streaming down his face, and for the first time in 30 years, he doesn't try to hide them. The other diners watch in stunned silence. Some look uncomfortable. Others have tears in their own eyes. Because everyone understands, on some level, what it means to lose yourself. I don't even know where to start, Marcus says, his voice breaking. I've been this person for so long. This monster. I've hurt so many people, ruined so many lives, just because I could. Because it made me feel powerful. Sarah doesn't let go of his hand. She's learned, through her own grief, that sometimes people just need someone to hold on to while they fall apart. My mother died on a Tuesday, Marcus continues, the words pouring out of him now like water from a broken dam. It was raining. I remember because I could hear it against the hospital window. She called me to her bedside and she said, Marcus, promise me you won't let this make you hard. Promise me you'll stay kind. He closes his eyes, and the memory is so vivid it hurts. I promised her. I looked her right in the eyes and I promised. And then she died, and I broke that promise immediately. I decided that kindness was for people who could afford it. That the world was cruel, so I had to be crueler. But you weren't cruel because the world was cruel, Sarah says softly. You were cruel because you were hurt. The simple truth of this statement hits Marcus like a physical blow. Yes, he whispers. Yes, I was hurt. I am hurt. I've been hurt for 30 years, and I've made everyone around me hurt too. Robert, the manager, stands nearby, not knowing what to do. He's never seen Marcus Wellington like this. Nobody has. The most powerful man in the city, crying in the middle of a restaurant, holding hands with a waitress. Mr. Wellington, Robert begins nervously, but Marcus holds up his free hand. Robert, Marcus says, his voice rough with emotion. I need to apologize to you. And to everyone who works here. I've been terrible to you all. I've used my money like a weapon, and I'm sorry. Robert's mouth falls open. In 5 years of managing this restaurant, he's never heard Marcus apologize to anyone. Sarah looks around the restaurant at all the watching faces. My husband used to say, she tells Marcus, loud enough for others to hear, that everyone carries invisible wounds. The rich and the poor, the powerful and the powerless. We're all walking around with hearts that are breaking or have broken. And the only thing that heals those wounds is connection. Real, honest connection with other human beings. She turns back to Marcus. You've been so busy building walls to protect yourself that you've locked yourself in a prison. But Marcus, the door was never locked. You can walk out anytime you want. Marcus looks at her, this woman who has every reason to hate him, who he threatened and belittled, and he sees only compassion in her eyes. It breaks something in him, but it also begins to heal something. I don't know how, he admits. I don't know how to be that person anymore. The kind person my mother wanted me to be. You start small, Sarah says. You start by treating the next person you meet with kindness. And then the person after that. And the one after that. You keep going until it becomes natural again. Marcus nods slowly, wiping his eyes with his napkin. Around the restaurant, people are starting to whisper, but the whispers aren't cruel. They're awed. They're witnessing transformation, and everyone knows how rare that is. Sarah, Marcus says, using her name for the first time. He read it on her name tag, but until now, she was just the waitress. Now she's Sarah. A person. A widow. A mother. Someone who's suffered and survived. Thank you. Thank you for not backing down. Thank you for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. Sarah smiles, and this time it reaches her eyes. Tom always said that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is tell someone the truth, even when it's hard to hear. Your Tom sounds like he was a wise man. He was, Sarah agrees, and the grief in her voice is still there, but it's softer now. Time has begun its slow work of healing. He was the best person I ever knew. Marcus takes a deep breath, collecting himself. He's aware that everyone in the restaurant is watching, waiting to see what he'll do next. The old Marcus would have stormed out, would have destroyed this place with a phone call, would have made sure Sarah never worked again. But the old Marcus died somewhere in the last half hour. And the new Marcus, the one that's just beginning to emerge, knows exactly what he needs to do. He stands up slowly, and Sarah releases his hand. For a moment, they just look at each other. Two people who were strangers an hour ago, but who have somehow changed each other's lives forever. Then Marcus does something he hasn't done in 30 years. He addresses everyone in the restaurant. "Excuse me," he says, his voice carrying across the room. "I know you all just witnessed something unusual. And I want to say something." The whispers stop. Everyone turns to look at him. "My name is Marcus Wellington," he continues. "And for the past 30 years, I've been a terrible human being. I've used my money and my power to hurt people, to make them afraid of me, to make myself feel important. And tonight, this remarkable woman," he gestures to Sarah, "reminded me of something I'd forgotten. She reminded me that we're all just people. That money doesn't make you better than anyone else. That power without kindness is just cruelty in an expensive suit." He pauses, swallowing hard. "So I want to apologize. To everyone I've hurt, everyone I've intimidated, everyone I've made feel small. I want to be better. And starting tonight, I'm going to try." The restaurant erupts in spontaneous applause. Not everyone claps. Some are too shocked, too cynical to believe in overnight transformations. But many do. Because everyone loves a redemption story. Everyone wants to believe that people can change. Sarah stands beside Marcus, tears in her own eyes now, thinking about Tom and how proud he would be of this moment. How he always believed in the goodness of people, even when they'd forgotten it themselves. And in that moment, something shifts in the universe. Something small but significant. One heart remembers how to be soft. One soul finds its way back to kindness. It's a beginning. The next morning, Sarah wakes up in her small apartment with sunlight streaming through the worn curtains. For a moment, she lies there, wondering if last night really happened. Did she really confront one of the richest men in the city? Did he really cry in the middle of a restaurant? Her phone buzzes on the nightstand. A text message from an unknown number. "Sarah, this is Marcus Wellington. Robert gave me your number. I hope that's okay. I wanted to thank you again for last night. And I was wondering if we could meet for coffee sometime. I'd like to learn how to be human again, and I think you might be the right teacher. No pressure. Just coffee and conversation. Marcus." Sarah reads the message 3 times. She thinks about Tom, about what he would say. And she knows. He'd tell her that everyone deserves a second chance. That healing is a gift we give not just to others, but to ourselves. She texts back, "Coffee sounds good. But only if you let me teach you something important. How to actually wash dishes. I think you need to remember what real work feels like." "Sarah." The response comes quickly. "Deal. I haven't washed a dish in 30 years. This should be interesting. Thank you, Sarah. For everything." 3 days later, they meet at a small coffee shop near Emma's school. Not the Riverside Cafe with its elegant atmosphere, but a humble place where regular people come for their morning coffee. Marcus arrives in jeans and a simple shirt, looking uncomfortable without his armor of expensive clothes. Sarah is already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She's wearing her day clothes, nothing fancy, just practical and worn. But she's smiling, and Marcus realizes it's the first genuine smile anyone has directed at him in years that wasn't paid for. "Thank you for coming," Marcus says, sitting down across from her. "Thank you for wanting to change," Sarah replies. "That takes more courage than most people have." They talk for an hour. Marcus asks about Tom, and Sarah tells him stories. About how Tom proposed on a rainy night with a ring he'd saved for 6 months to buy. About how he'd dance with Emma in the kitchen while making pancakes on Sunday mornings. About how he faced death with grace, worried more about his family than himself. In return, Sarah asks about Marcus's mother, and slowly, carefully, he opens doors he locked decades ago. He tells her about Elizabeth Wellington, who taught 3rd grade and baked cookies for her students. Who read him stories every night, even when she was exhausted. Who believed in kindness even when the world was cruel to her. "She would be so disappointed in what I became," Marcus says, staring into his coffee. "Maybe," Sarah agrees, because she won't lie to him. "But she'd also be proud that you're trying to change. That's what matters, Marcus. Not where you've been, but where you're going." Over the next few weeks, something extraordinary happens. Marcus starts showing up at Sarah's apartment on his days off. Not as a billionaire doing charity work, but as a student learning how to live again. Sarah teaches him how to cook simple meals. How to actually taste food instead of just eating it. She takes him to the grocery store where she shops, and he's amazed at how much thought goes into every purchase when money is tight. "You really have to choose between buying fresh vegetables or getting Emma new shoes?" Marcus asks, standing in the produce aisle. "Welcome to real life," Sarah says gently. "This is how most people live, Marcus. Every day is a series of small choices and sacrifices." He meets Emma, who's shy at first but warms up when Marcus gets down on her level and asks about her drawings. She shows him her picture of her dad, and Marcus's eyes fill with tears. "He looks like he was a good man," Marcus says softly. "He was the best," Emma replies with the simple certainty of a child. "Mom says he's watching over us from heaven. Do you think that's true?" Marcus looks at Sarah, who gives him an encouraging nod. "Yes," Marcus says, and he means it. "I think people we love never really leave us. They stay in our hearts." Sarah starts teaching Marcus about empathy by involving him in her world. She takes him to the food bank where she volunteers on weekends. Marcus, who's never waited in a line for anything in his adult life, stands with her distributing canned goods to families who can barely make ends meet. He meets single mothers like Sarah, veterans struggling with injuries and bills, elderly people choosing between medication and food. Each person has a story. Each story breaks his heart a little more and builds something new in its place. "I've been living in a bubble," Marcus tells Sarah one evening as they walk Emma home from the park. "I've been so isolated from real life that I forgot what life actually is." "Most wealthy people are," Sarah says without judgment. "It's not entirely your fault. When you have money, the world works differently. But the question is, what are you going to do now that you remember?" That question keeps Marcus awake at night. He lies in his massive, empty house and thinks about Sarah's small apartment full of love and laughter. He thinks about the people at the food bank, the families struggling to survive. He thinks about his mother, about her gentle lessons on kindness. And slowly, carefully, Marcus begins to change not just his behavior, but his life. He starts by calling meetings with his company's executives. "We're making changes," he announces. "Better wages for our hotel staff. Real health insurance that doesn't bankrupt people when they get sick. Paid family leave. Retirement benefits that actually mean something." His board members are shocked. "This will cost millions," someone protests. "I have millions," Marcus replies. "What good are they if I'm not using them to help people?" He sets up a foundation, not for tax breaks, but for real help. Medical debt relief. Scholarships for children of single parents. Support for widows and widowers trying to rebuild their lives. But more than the money, Marcus changes how he treats people. He learns everyone's name at his hotels. He stops to talk with housekeepers and cooks. He says please and thank you, really meaning it, to everyone he meets. The transformation doesn't go unnoticed. Business associates whisper about his breakdown. Some think he's lost his mind. Others quietly admit they're inspired. And through it all, Sarah is there. Not as someone who wants something from him, but as a friend. A guide. Someone who sees Marcus. Not Mr. Wellington, not the billionaire, just Marcus, a man trying to find his way back to the person his mother raised him to be. 6 months after that pivotal night at the Riverside Cafe, Sarah stands in the kitchen of Marcus's downtown hotel, one of his newest properties. But she's not there as a guest. She's there as the newly appointed director of staff wellness, a position Marcus created specifically to ensure that every employee in his company is treated with dignity and respect. "Are you sure about this?" Marcus had asked when he offered her the job. "You'd be working for me." "No," Sarah corrected with a smile. "I'd be working with you. There's a difference." Now she walks through the hotel with a clipboard, talking to housekeepers about their working conditions, making notes about what needs to change. Marcus follows behind her, learning, listening, seeing his business through completely different eyes. In the hotel restaurant, they stop to watch the evening service begin. Sarah points out the young waitress who looks nervous and overwhelmed, and Marcus immediately recognizes himself in the demanding customer at table 7. "Watch this," Sarah whispers. Marcus approaches the customer, who's in the middle of complaining about the wait. "Excuse me, sir," Marcus says politely. "I'm the owner of this hotel. I noticed you're waiting for service, and I wanted to personally apologize for the delay. Our waitress is new and still learning. Would you mind if I took your order myself?" The customer, ready to continue his complaint, stops mid-sentence, surprised. You're the owner?" "I am," Marcus confirms. "And I believe great service starts from the top. So, what can I get for you this evening?" The transformation in the customer is immediate. His anger dissolves into embarrassment and then appreciation. "Oh, well, thank you. That's very kind." After Marcus takes the order and passes it to the grateful waitress, he returns to Sarah, who's smiling with pride. "You're learning," she says. "I had a good teacher," Marcus replies. That evening, Marcus joins Sarah and Emma for dinner at their apartment, though it's not quite so small anymore. Marcus had quietly arranged for them to move to a better building, not as charity, but as Sarah's signing bonus for her new position. Sarah had protested at first, but Marcus had insisted. "You gave me back my life," he'd said. "Let me help you build yours." Now, as they sit around the small dining table eating the simple pasta dinner Sarah prepared, Marcus looks around and realizes something profound. This modest apartment with its second-hand furniture and Emma's crayon drawings on the fridge. This feels more like home than his mansion ever has. "Marcus?" Emma asks, twirling spaghetti on her fork. "Can I ask you something?" "Of course, sweetheart. Were you always nice? Mom says you learned how to be kind again, but I don't understand. How do you forget how to be kind?" The innocent question hangs in the air. Sarah starts to intervene, but Marcus holds up his hand. "That's a really good question, Emma," he says, getting down to her eye level. "The truth is, when something really sad happens, sometimes people get scared. They think if they act tough and mean, they won't get hurt again. They build walls around their hearts." "Like a castle?" Emma asks. "Exactly like a castle," Marcus agrees. "But here's what I learned. When you build walls to keep out the hurt, you also keep out the love. You keep out the joy. You keep out everything that makes life worth living." "So you tore down your walls?" Emma asks. "Your mom helped me," Marcus says, glancing at Sarah, who has tears in her eyes. "She reminded me that being kind isn't weak. It's the bravest thing you can do." Emma thinks about this seriously. Then she gets up from her chair and hugs Marcus. "I'm glad you're kind now," she says simply. "You're like a second grandpa." Marcus has to excuse himself to the bathroom because he's crying again, but this time they're good tears. Healing tears. Later, after Emma is in bed, Sarah and Marcus sit on the small balcony, looking out at the city lights. "Do you ever regret it?" Sarah asks. "Walking away from who you were?" "Every single day," Marcus admits. "Not because I miss being that person, but because I regret all the time I wasted. All the years I could have been living instead of just existing." He pauses, watching the traffic below. "But I'm grateful too. Grateful that I met you. Grateful that you didn't back down that night. Grateful that it's not too late to change." "It's never too late," Sarah says softly. "Tom used to say that every sunrise is a new chance to become who you want to be." "I wish I could have met him," Marcus says. "I wish I could thank him for raising you to be so brave." Sarah smiles. "I think maybe you did, in a way. I think maybe he sent you to that restaurant that night. I think maybe this was all supposed to happen." They sit in comfortable silence for a while, two friends who found each other in the most unexpected way. Sarah, Marcus says eventually, I've been thinking about something. What's that? The Riverside Cafe. Robert wants to retire, and he's looking for someone to buy the restaurant. Marcus turns to look at her. What if we bought it together? Made it into something different? A place where everyone, and I mean everyone, is treated with respect and dignity. Where single parents can bring their kids. Where people down on their luck can get a good meal. Where the waitstaff is paid fairly and treated well. Sarah's eyes widen. Are you serious? Completely, Marcus says. I'll provide the money, but I want you to run it. Make it the kind of place Tom would have loved. The kind of place my mother would have been proud of. Sarah is quiet for a long moment, and Marcus worries he's overstepped. But then she starts to laugh, and it's the most beautiful sound he's ever heard. You know what? Sarah says, wiping happy tears from her eyes. I think Tom would love that. I think he'd love that the worst night of my life led to something so beautiful. Is that a yes? Marcus asks, hopeful. That's a yes, Sarah confirms, and they shake on it, sealing a partnership built not on money or power, but on mutual respect and shared purpose. 3 months later, the Riverside Cafe reopens with a new mission and a new name. Elizabeth's Table, in honor of Marcus's mother. The menu includes simple, affordable meals alongside the fancy dishes. On weekends, they offer free community dinners. The staff is paid living wages with full benefits, and every employee has a voice in how the restaurant is run. On opening night, Marcus stands at the entrance, greeting every single guest personally. Some are his old associates from his previous life, curious about his transformation. Others are families from the food bank, people Sarah invited personally. They all mix together, wealthy and working class, and somehow it works. Sarah moves through the room, checking on tables, chatting with customers, making sure everyone feels welcome. She's wearing a simple black dress, and around her neck is a locket with Tom's picture inside. Sometimes she touches it and whispers to him, sharing this moment with the love she lost but who still guides her. Emma is there too, helping hand out menus, her smile bright and innocent. When she reaches Marcus, she hugs his leg and says, Daddy would like this place. It feels happy. Marcus has to pause and collect himself, moved beyond words by this simple statement from a child who lost her father, but hasn't lost her capacity for joy. As the evening winds down and the last guests leave, Marcus and Sarah stand together in the empty restaurant, looking at what they've built. You know what the crazy thing is? Marcus says, I spent 30 years chasing success, trying to prove I was somebody. And I never felt successful. Not really. But this, he gestures around the restaurant. This feels like success. That's because it is, Sarah says simply. Real success isn't about what you have. It's about who you are and how you treat people. It's about making the world a little bit better than you found it. Marcus turns to her, this woman who changed his life by refusing to back down, by seeing him when he couldn't see himself. Thank you, Sarah. For everything. For being brave that night. For not giving up on me. For showing me the way back. Thank you for being willing to change, Sarah replies. Not everyone would have had that courage. They stand there in the soft glow of the restaurant lights. Two people who found redemption in the most unexpected place. Marcus thinks about his mother, about how proud she'd be of him now. Sarah thinks about Tom, about how he always believed in the goodness of people. And somewhere in the universe, maybe Elizabeth Wellington and Tom Chun are smiling, watching the lives they touched continue to ripple outward, creating waves of kindness in a world that so desperately needs it. Because in the end, that's what this story is really about. It's about remembering that we're all just human. That money and power mean nothing if you've lost your humanity. That it's never too late to change. That sometimes the person who saves you is the one you least expect. And most importantly, it's about the truth that Tom and Elizabeth both knew. Kindness is the only currency that really matters. It's the only thing that lasts. It's the only thing that can heal a broken world, one heart at a time. Marcus locks the door of Elizabeth's table that night, and as he walks Sarah to her car, he realizes something profound. For the first time in 30 years, he's not afraid. He's not alone. He's not empty. He's home. And that, dear friends, is worth more than all the money in the world. The end. Remember, every person you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind. Always. A note to you, dear viewer. If this story touched your heart, I want you to know something important. This isn't just a story about Marcus and Sarah. It's a story about all of us. We all have moments when we forget to be kind. when we're stressed, tired, or hurt, and we take it out on someone who doesn't deserve it. Maybe it's the person who serves your coffee, or the customer service representative on the phone, or even someone in your own family. But we also all have the power that Sarah had, the power to choose kindness even when it's hard, the power to see the human being behind the anger, the fear, the pain. And like Marcus, we all have the ability to change. No matter what you've done, no matter how lost you feel, no matter how long you've been walking the wrong path, it's never too late to turn around. So I want to ask you, who will you choose to be today? Will you be the Marcus who demands the world bow to your needs? Or will you be the Sarah who stands firm in kindness? Or maybe, like Marcus in the end, will you be someone who's brave enough to admit they were wrong and start over? The choice is always yours. Every single day, every single interaction, you get to choose. Choose kindness. Choose compassion. Choose to see the humanity in everyone you meet. Because you never know, your kindness might be the thing that saves someone. Your compassion might be the light that guides someone home. Your willingness to see past the surface might help someone remember who they really are. Thank you for listening to this story. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being willing to carry this message of hope and kindness out into the world. Now go out there and be someone's reason to believe in goodness again. With love and hope, Voice of Granny.